Have you ever thought about selling your home as is and wondered if that's a smart move here in Peabody? It's a question I hear a lot, and the answer is one size doesn't fit all. There are real pros and cons, and it comes down to your goals, your timeline, and how much risk you're willing to take on. So let's break this down in plain English. First, what does selling as is actually mean? In simple terms, it means you're pulling your home on the market without making repairs or updates and letting buyers know upfront that you're not interested in negotiating over condition. What they say is what they get. You're basically saying, here's the house, take it or leave it. Now here's the thing, when you list a home as is in Peabody, most buyers immediately assume two things. Number one, the home probably needs a lot of work. And number two, they're going to factor that into their offer. That doesn't always mean disaster, but it usually means you're narrowing your buyer pool. Let's talk about the advantages. First, if you're in a situation where you don't want to or simply can't sink money into repairs, then as-is sales gives you an out, meaning you've inherited a property that hasn't been updated in decades, and maybe you're relocating and just don't have the time to deal with contracting. Selling as-is can save you stress, the cost and the delay of trying to get the home market ready. You're trading sweat equity for speed. And here at Peabody, there's a demand for investors and cash buyers who are actively looking for as-is properties. They're looking for homes that they can renovate, flip, or rent out. If your home fits this profile, you may be surprised how quickly it gets attention. For some sellers, that speed alone makes the as-is option worth it. But this is the big but. You need to understand that the trade-off is selling as is often leaves money on the table. Buying will discount heavily for the work they think needs to be done, sometimes more than the actual repair costs. For example, if your roof is needing at the end of life, you might estimate $12,000 to replace it, but a buyer might come in and knock off $20,000 or more off the offer just to cover what they see as a risk. Multiply that by mindset across every repair, and suddenly your home value has dropped significantly. Another thing to keep in mind is perception. Even if your home doesn't need major work, the word as is can scare off traditional buyers. Some will automatically assume hidden problems like foundation issues, plumbing nightmares, or structural concerns, even if none of that is true. That stigma alone can shrink your buyer pool. In real estate, few buyers usually equals a lower selling price. So, how do you know if selling is the right move for you? I like to ask sellers two key questions. First, do you have resources, time, money, or energy to make even minor updates that could help the home shine? Because sometimes even small fixes like fresh paint, new carpet, professional cleaning can make a huge impact without a huge investment. Second, what's important to you? Maximizing your sale price or getting the home sold quickly with the least amount of hassle. If your dollar is your priority, selling as is usually isn't your best option. On the other hand, if speed and simplicity are what you want and you care most about, it can be the perfect solution. I've seen clients who were relieved to hand over the keys knowing they didn't have to deal with one more contract or project. For them, the peace of mind was worth it more than the extra dollars that they might have earned. Now, one thing I'll stress, just because you're selling as is doesn't mean you're off the hook legally. In Massachusetts, sellers are still required to disclose known material defects. That means if you know a problem like water damage, lead paint, or a failing heating system, you just can't keep quiet because the house is as is. Full disclosure is always best policy, and it protects you from headaches down the road. Another consideration, financing. A home that needs significant work might not qualify for traditional loans, especially if the issue are with the roof, the plumbing, or the heating system. In those cases, you're often looking at cash buyers only. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does limit your audience. Here's the bottom line. Selling in Peabody can absolutely be a smart move for the right seller in the right situation. It's not a shortcut to avoiding the realities of the market. It's a trade-off. You give up some potential value, but you gain time, convenience, and certainty. If you're weighing this decision, I always recommend running the numbers for both ways. What would it cost to do a few key updates? What kind of price difference could that make in today's market? And then, what's your time and peace of mind worth to you? Once you have those questions answered, the right path usually becomes clear. So if you're thinking about selling your home in Peabody and wondering is as is the right strategy, let's talk it through together. One home, every situation, every seller is different. And sometimes a quick conversation is all it takes to figure out what makes sense for you.